Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll receive insight, inspiration, and advice for aligning your mind, body, and spirit to achieve a fulfilled life and live your purpose with me, your host, Jennifer S4E12. You'll also hear from other leaders who share their inspirational stories and wisdom in living fulfilled, on purpose, and making an impact. If you're a mission-driven leader and you're passionate about learning and integrating all the things that empower you to live and lead a fulfilled, purpose-led life, this is the show for you. Hey everyone, I am excited to welcome as a guest to our show today, Holly Copeland. She is a certified human potential coach and NeuroMeditation teacher, sound healer, and Reiki master. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super excited to have you too. And I'm loving your backdrop, by the way.
Thank you. We're all on Zoom so much. I figured, I get to, look at myself and others can see me in a forest. It's where I'd rather.
Right. I've been thinking of branching out myself. Like, maybe I want to go to the beach for a while.
Exactly.
I might start doing that.
Yeah, it works.
So I'd love for you to share with us, more about what inspired you to get into what you're doing and a little more about what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, thanks. So I had a big transformational life shift about 3 years ago. I was a conservation scientist for the Nature Conservancy for almost 20 years. And then a scientist for the University of Wyoming for a few years after that. And I really thought for a long time that my career would be as an ecologist and conservation biologist. I worked on mule deer and sage grouse and, critters that roam the Western United States. And towards the end of around 2017, I really started to feel in despair. I was basically not very happy. Even though I had a dream job living in a beautiful small town. I mean, I had so many things that were, quote unquote, right. But there was something in me that felt there was a misalignment with my purpose. And as crazy as it might seem, for the job that I had, and, the Conservancy is a wonderful organization and the people I work with were wonderful. But I was feeling like there would never be enough time, money, or resources to really do the planet justice as I saw fit. And I also felt as though I was this increasing feeling like it's really the people. The people are the problem. Like so many people are not doing well, that they're the ones that need to make the shift for the planet to be better, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense.
Yeah. And so, and it was my own personal, I wasn't feeling very good in my head. To be honest, I felt like there was this narrative voice running amok in my head all the time. And who is she anyway? And how do we get out of that? And so that we can have peace of mind and fundamental well-being and happiness. And so I went on my own. That took me into my own personal sort of inner dive. I started studying meditation and really what I called my rewire my brain project, to get out of my head and get into my heart and get clarity and resilience and happiness. And, I didn't realize at the time really what I was getting into. Of course, we can't see it at the time. I just knew something felt really wrong in my own being that I needed to fix. And so I quit the Conservancy. I started, training as a coach. And as that unfolded, I just got deeper and deeper into the inner journey, as it were. Wow. And honestly, it worked so well, Jennifer. It so transformed who I was and my just fundamental day-to-day experience of being a human being. I want you to understand, like, I'd never been somebody who I'd tried meditation and it just was hard, and I didn't know if I was doing it right. And so I never had a meditative practice before, even though I would have described myself as a spiritual kind of person. But tools that I found and teachers that I found really helped me kind of crack that nut or hack my brain for meditation, and opened up this whole inner world that landed me in a really joyful, happy place. And now I just dedicate my life to helping others find that same place.
I love that. I'm glad you brought up your challenges with meditation, because a lot of people feel challenged with that. I could talk about meditation all day, because meditation for me on my own journey several years ago was a gateway to really opening up, existing spiritual gifts that I already had. And so I teach meditation with all of my clients, and I'm like a huge advocate of meditation. But there are, a lot of different types of meditation, right? And
there are.
I'd love, just because this is something that you're so focused on sharing and teaching, I'd love it if you could just share, like, what are maybe the top 3 types of meditation that work for people in terms of like helping them to quiet their mind and implement?
That's such a great question. And I agree with you. It's, there are so many types of meditation, and it can be very confusing if you want to get into the world of meditation, even just to understand what meditation is it right? It's not necessarily well understood. And I think a lot of people have heard of John Kabat-Zinn and mindfulness, and I certainly had, but again, like sitting and watching my thoughts or sitting and watching my breath was not something I'd been able to really do until I got help and, found this path. But back to your question, one of them, in the neuromeditation approach, and we break it down into 4 main types. So I'll just kind of briefly kind of categorize those, and then we'll see where that goes. So the first is like focused meditation. That's that classic watching your breath. And that's really the art of concentration, which is which can be so fundamental, especially when we feel like we have a crazy busy mind. It's in Buddhism, it's like starting to tame that elephant, tame the monkey and tie the elephant down, and which is the mind. And we're giving it something, the breath, to focus on. And from a neuroscience point of view, actually what that does is it starts to, what I call, like, rebuild the conductor in the front of the brain, that prefrontal cortex, which is your, the center of your kind of cognitive processes. And that conductor there, when we're not practiced and we have a crazy monkey mind, it's a terrible conductor. Right. And so what focused meditation does is brings the conductor back online for the orchestra that is your brain. So that type, that's the first, concentration. And then there's mindfulness meditation, which is more of the watching and observing what's happening and allowing it to be. So that's that just fundamental process of, can you just be equanimous with what's happening in the world in a very allowing space without judgment? So that's cultivating that skill of, I can be with whatever's happening and don't need to label it, don't need to put it in a box, but I'm just cultivating my ability to be with what is. The third type is compassion meditation or heart meditation, which is that loving kindness, which is so, especially because so many people, I think we, especially in America, have a lot of self-hatred and loathing. We don't actually know how to bring compassion and love to ourselves. So that practice can be so helpful for so many people to start to, bring that love back to ourselves. And then the last type is quiet mind meditation, which is that deeper meditative states that access that deep theta brain. They put us down into that subconscious where we can really tap into deep intuition, deep knowing, the deeper I, the deeper self. So that's kind of the big 4. And then there's lots of flavors, and sometimes we mix them. So sometimes a concentration meditation is mixed with mindfulness or deep meditation. But I think that's an easy way to think about the four big ones. How does that sit with you? Does that sit with your experience as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about finding a person finding what works for them. That's the best way to set yourself up for success, because if you go into doing a practice and going into the practice from a place of feeling obligated, then it's already a struggle from the start. Your video went, oh, there we go. So setting yourself up for success, I think, is really important. I especially resonate with what you said about the breath, because focusing on the breath really also helps us to ground into the body. And especially when someone is in those initial stages of having an awakening and really on that journey of rediscovery, it can be very easy to spend more time in your upper chakras, more time in your head, and not paying as much attention to your physical body. And so the breath is important, but then aside from that, I especially resonated with what you're talking about deepening into the theta state. And I refer to that as like a grounded knowing, right? Like just really being in your heart center. So yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, sure. You're welcome. Yeah. Jeff Tarrant at the NeuroMeditation Institute, who developed these methods, I think really had a great way of kind of putting it out there, and then also tying in some of the neuroscience for those people who want to understand how do these different types of meditation affect the brain and the body in different ways, because they do. And so if you're somebody who suffers from, depression, for example, then one type of meditation like loving kindness might be a better fit initially than doing breath focused meditation. And if you have, ADHD or ADD, starting on a focused meditation helps bring the slower theta brain that's in the forward part of your brain back online and increase. And so that's very beneficial. So it's a way of really honing in on the right type of meditation. Like you said, everybody kind of resonates with a different type, but also different issues or conditions that people are facing can be benefited by different types of meditation.
Absolutely. Something else I'd love to explore a little bit deeper with you is you had, we chatted a little bit before we hit record, and also some of the information in your bio really interested me. In particular, you had mentioned, on your path being heartbroken by the state of the planet. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. What I had come to recognize about that is that it is indicative of something really much more deeper and fundamental, which is that I was coming from a place of lack, and that I was feeling that the external brokenness that I saw in the world was actually a reflection of my own internal brokenness, my own internal pain. And so it's a mirror. And it seems unintuitive or counterintuitive at first, like isn't just the objective world what the objective world is, but actually, we see things as we are, not as they are, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
And so what I realized was that if I could find, what I discovered was that by going on this inner path and finding my own wholeness, finding that actually, I was already whole and already perfect inside, as are you, as are every single listener of your podcast right now. There is a place in you that is not broken and can't be harmed. That space of our essential being or true self or true knowing is already whole. And to land back in that place and discover that was to discover my own reservoir that can't be drained, right? Nobody could take away that
wholeness and love. That we are actually all love at our core. That's what we are. And when we deeply know that and can learn to live from that, we have an ability to be with the brokenness, the apparent brokenness of the world in an entirely different way. It arises as love, actually, as our love for the planet, which is actually what my brokenness was pointing to, right? The reason I cared so much is because I loved it so much, because I love plants and animals. And it pains me to see them hurt so much. But rather than the suffering point of view, which is, I'm just in constant, oh my God, how horrible is that? And a lot of people are stuck in that, oh my God, how horrible is that mindset. They're just living from one, awful recognition of something happening to the next. And that actually becomes your reality. Your reality is just moving from one awful thing to the next. And the amazing recognition is that that's actually a choice you're making to view the world that way. And you have a way out, which is to find your own center, your own wholeness. And my experience was and is that when you find your own wholeness, you actually have infinite energy and ability to be with whatever's happening and then help in a whole new way.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like if the house is on fire, you do not want your firefighters to be, holding their heads going, oh my God, the house is on fire, right? Your firefighters need to be ready for action and whole. And so they can go in and fight the fire. And so for me, it was like resurrecting that inner superhero or inner firefighter who all of a sudden the house, things are still happening in a sense. The objective house is still on fire, right? There's a lot of pain in the world. But now I'm like the superhero of my own story. I'm not the one, holding my head in despair.
What you said about resurrecting that inner wisdom is really key. And I feel like that is a lot of what's happening at a massive scale right now, is that essentially like a lot of light switches are coming on at the same time, because we already have all of the answers and all of the inner wisdom. But often, when we come into this world, although, I believe at a soul level, we ultimately choose the journey that we're walking into, right? Because there are experiences and lessons to be learned as part of being human here. But it's more of like not a transformation, but a remembrance of the essence of who we really are.
I 100% agree with you. It's a remembrance. Yeah. And which is so amazing, right? Because it's a remembrance, that means each of us, every single person listening, already has actually all the tools you need within you. Like, you don't need anything else. Of course, we all support each other on this journey, but fundamentally, you actually have it within you, each of us.
Absolutely. I'd love to touch on that a little bit more, because yes, it's true that we have all of the wisdom within us. And I think sometimes people get confused of, well, hey, you're saying that I have all the answers within me, but yet you're providing coaching support. Well, that's because what happens is that we can't see our own stuff as clearly as we can even see for other people, right? Because of emotional attachments, limiting beliefs, unhealed trauma that may be in our energy field, and all of that. And that's why it's important to recognize that when you're feeling that resistance, right, that it's good to reach out for that support, to work with someone who can actually help you, to bring light to that and to help you clear your path forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. It can be a little bit of a conundrum to hear that, that, yeah, I have everything within me, but why do I need coaches and teachers? And oh my gosh, on my journey, and I'm sure on your journey, my teachers and coaches have been absolutely invaluable at reflecting and mirroring and supporting me along the way, so that, yeah, I mean, absolutely. we don't need to do it alone. I don't think we should do it alone. I think we all can be supporting each other. But it's very empowering when you know that actually everything you need is within you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. Something else I'd love to hear more about. You have a 10-week meditation course, and I know that by the time our listeners hear the episode, that it will already be out in the world. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, thanks. I teach subtle energy meditation. I co-teach this course with Stephen Altair, who's an amazing teacher himself. Subtle energy meditation was a form of meditation that actually blends all four of those types that we were talking about at the beginning into a series of guided meditations, and we introduce one a week for 10 weeks that teaches people how to, concentrate, how to then go in and feel those subtle energy systems, those chakras in the body, how to work with the central energy channel, the sushumna that runs up the body, and harness that in order to activate and turn on really this energy system in our body, and start to really have a deeper communication with it, wherein we can access intuitive knowledge, access our deeper wisdom, and then ultimately also heal the body, like actually raise the vibration of our body. The body, as I'm sure is just energy. We're all energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we use this type of meditation to start to really tap into that energy system so we can heal ourselves and then ultimately help each other.
I love that. I love that so much. In closing, what else are you feeling guided to bring forward?
We didn't talk too much about awareness-based practices, and I just want to touch on that a little bit because it's something I teach. And if people go to I have an Insight Timer channel, and you'll find that a number of the meditations there help introduce people to what I call the ground of their being. And these stem from the Tibetan traditions of Mahamudra and Dzogchen, which I've been studying. And they're known as the direct path of meditation because they help us to see very clearly this awareness, this knowing of our true self, the subject in a sense of the movie, rather than everything that we see, hear, feel are all objects. And that is a direct pointing to the timeless, unbounded, infinite quality of our own true nature, of our own being. And I have found that discovery of how to access that, you can start to do that very quickly and shift your perception, out of always going out. We're so used to, in fact, nobody really teaches us in Western culture how to work with our minds in a way that we are not just constantly going out with our minds and our attention to objects, right? But if I ask you now, like, where is your awareness? What would you say? And I think for most of us, we don't even contemplate that. We don't even really give it a second thought. And this is a deep practice into really tuning into our own inner knowing and awareness.
It's amazing. A lot of what you've been sharing today, brings me back to, it's like if you just had one thing to focus on, right? Being present, being anchored in the moment, because whenever, we're worried or thinking about the future or thinking about the past, we aren't immersed in the now moment. And that is really where we're empowered to shape our lives.
100%. Yeah, right. Everything unfolds in the present moment. And in fact, that for me, that surrendering of egoic self or
yes,
identity.
And I was just thinking that right before you said that.
We're tuned in.
I love how we're connected. Yes.
Yeah. And so that doer person that you think you are, you know, for whoever's listening, that doer being that is mind created, that's actually what the Buddhists point to. It's a mind creation, this little small self inside you doesn't actually exist. It's a story that we keep inventing every single moment. And the way out of that story, which is for most of us filled with a lot of, you know, control, of trying to control our external world so we can be okay inside. And this model is flipping that and saying, no, the external world is kind of always probably going to be a junk show. So give up trying to control the external world so you're okay. Instead, turn around and find, you know, this place within you that's actually always okay. And it's a surrender. Fundamentally, you're giving up control of the small mind to surrender.
Detaching.
Yeah, yeah. But oh my gosh, you know, that exploration of self and deep surrender to something much more intelligent than any of our little small minds is.
Yes. And, you know, a lot of people are challenged with surrender on their journey. And it's no wonder why, because, you know, if you look in the dictionary of what the meaning of surrender is, it's a complete inversion.
I haven't looked at the
it is. It's just promoted as, it's just listed being defined as giving your power away to your enemies as defeat. So if you're taught that surrender means giving your power away, which it's actually the complete opposite.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, there's actually there's like an unlearning or like a rewiring of the mind, of the brain, you know, that needs to happen with that. I come across this so often with people I connect with and with clients that I work with, because they're like, surrender, like, and then they also confuse detachment with not caring.
Right. And
it's like, you can care and be detached.
Right. You can absolutely. In fact, that's the art of equanimity, right? It's like, I'm okay with what's happening and I care deeply at the same time.
Yes.
Those two things can
yes. Surrender in of itself is a very fascinating topic.
It really, really is. And yeah, I think it, you know, so many of us have heard let go, just let go over the years. I certainly had, and I didn't know what it meant or how to really do it. And for me, letting go is fundamentally a surrender, which is giving over this small controlling self. It's like, I tell my clients, like, it's about letting go of the steering wheel. You know, take your hands off the steering wheel and allow your life to unfold from your deepest intuitive knowing.
Yes. Because you already know. Your soul knows.
Your soul knows. Exactly.
Yes.
It's only the conceptual mind that's trying to second guess, worry, you know, is this going to be okay? Am I enough? Do I really deserve, you know, whatever. You know, those are the stories that we tell ourselves that we bring from our childhood, because, you know, your mom told you were a bad girl and, you know, you still carry that story. You're lugging it around like luggage that you're, you know, dragging through the airport. And it's like, let go of the luggage.
Yes. I often say, you know, like, the mind is a faithful servant, but the soul has the blueprint for our lives. The soul is eternal. Right.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, it's always going to guide us toward expansion. And as humans, many of us are conditioned to believe, you know, because expansion involves an unknown path, that instills fear in us. And the fear never really goes away. That's just part of being human. It's really more about self-awareness and your ability to actually move through it. Moving through it, that's what I believe courage is. It's not that you're this perfect person that never feels fear or never has a crappy day or anything like that. You just have a different level of awareness and you're making honoring choices for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think so true. And really, I do think, and my experience is that, lots of things are going to happen. I mean, that's the nature of reality, that things are constantly coming in and out, My iPhone broke yesterday, just random things that come out of the blue that happen.
Yeah.
But actually, we can just kind of float with them like the river, We can just allow it to unfold. It's only the mind that wants to say, that's a bad thing, I didn't have enough time, blah, blah, blah. It's the mind that creates a problem. So it's really flipping out of the problem-oriented view of life, is another way to look at it. Just stop, see what's here now without creating a problem story around anything that's happening.
Exactly. Holly, I mean, I could just keep talking to you, but it's time to go. So it's been a joy having you and having this conversation. I know our listeners are going to get so much from what we've talked about today. And if someone wants to, connect with you at a deeper level, where's the best place for them to reach out?
So thank you so much. I could talk to you also for a long time. This is my heart topic. They can find me at heartmindalchemy.com. And I work one-on-one with people. And as you mentioned, I have workshops and courses as well. So I have a vibrational alchemy course in April, so that maybe there'll be a chance for people to sign up for that. So we'll see.
I love it. Amazing. Holly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can achieve a fulfilled life, live your purpose, and make an impact as a mission-driven leader, visit me at jenniferspore.com